Well, so this is the model. Yeah. With this model, we want to do some stuff, and I want to finally create a Excel file that looks like this. So this is the summary of quantities. We get length, surface, for instance, the number of elements. Yeah, we had to use a Belgian, a Dutch language description here, but this is concerning everything that's windows and doors, thermic glazing, etc., etc. So that doesn't matter what is this description, it's the article that counts in here. From this article I have 90 elements. So this is the final result I want to get, and I will show you how we can get it with our DataLink tools. Now let me close that result, and let's start with a new one. So I will create a new template from scratch. So let's call it webinar template. And if we look at it, at the template, it's empty. We have an empty template. So no data within it, so no tricks we will try to use for it. Now we go to BIMiTs, DataLink, and there we have template editor. Now it's first, in this case, why is it taking a little while? It's opening first Excel in the background. It's reading this model because we need to see a list of all parameters that are available in this model. And I mean with all parameters, everything. So not only the shared parameters, but I also want to see the project parameters that are in it, and also the family parameters. So this is a list of all categories that are available in our Revit model. Now this is already a template which we will use in a while. So first let me take our webinar template, which is an empty one. Here you see this is the empty template we have. Now I want to see information of, for instance, casework. What information you want to see? Well, let's discretize between instances and types. Why? Well, if we use family parameters, like for instance the parameter width, it could be that one casework element has a width into the in his instance properties, and another casework could have a width in his type properties. So we need to definitely make a difference between the two, otherwise you would have too much of parameters in one table. So it's a little bit another perspective we are using here than the Revit perspective in its schedules. So let's activate instances. Automatically we'll get an ID for it. That's our typical Revit ID. Everybody knows, I guess, the Revit ID we have. Now this will help us to identify every single element in our model. What I want to see from the casework, well, I want to see a family. I want to see the family name. No, excuse me, just family name. I want to see the type name, type ID, which will be more clear immediately. With what we have, level, mark, it doesn't matter what parameter I will choose in here, but these are all the parameters that are available from the caseworks that are modeled in this model. Now, we have room awareness, like I told you. So let's go to the room. I want to see in which room is this casework based. For instance, room name, room number. So this will be all listed in one table. We can go to types. When I switch on types, I get a new ID which will refer to the type ID. Now you have to know in Revit, in the background of Revit, everything has an ID. Even a view has an ID, a category has an ID, a type has an ID. Everything in Revit has a unique ID. So that makes it easy for us to map everything in our tables. Once you get an idea of it, you can make cross-referencing of data in that Excel file, which I will show you immediately. Now, our model is based on keynoting. So since keynote is our type parameter, I definitely need it. I need the type name eventually, maybe type mark, I don't know. You can choose which you want in here. This is concerning casework. Let's have a look on for instance, doors, because every element in a Revit model has specific behavior within the template editor. For instance, for doors, it's also possible to add information about its host. Which information could be important? Well, the host ID. A door is hosted in, for instance, a wall. And that wall has a Revit ID, which will mean if I have my wall table immediately, well, I could make a mixture between this table and the table of the walls, and then make a merging table of those two. So you can cross-reference again the data between the two. It's a little bit a idle form of access we are trying to use here in Excel. But instead of host ID, it's also of course possible to take the host type name. Which type of wall are you using? Or in our case, we have a specific parameter which is added by the BIMiTs extensions, which will identify the total thickness of our wall. That's also possible to use in here. Now, another one is floors. I want to see information about the floors. Now, don't go to compound structure yet. Let's start with the easy stuff, with the instances. I want to see from each instance the family name, the type name, thickness, type ID again, volume, is it a structural floor, etc., etc., etc. You can everything. It's possible here again. Level. Now, if we go back to the compound structure, what's this? Well, certainly in architecture, we often use compound structure floors, so multi-layered floors. The same thing for walls, which we indicate as, for instance, the precast concrete, and then the compression concrete, maybe some screed, then the finishing layer of the floor. And I want to discretize also those elements. So what I want to see is the ID of the layer, the material of the layer, the type name of the floor which is using that layer, and the width of that layer. And maybe now it's not really clear what we're gonna do with this, but you will see immediately in our final template which enormous source of information that could give us in concerning volume calculation of materials of our floors. Now, we have that same structure in the walls. There you also have the possibility to make the compound structure visible. Yeah. And then finally, when we have a look at structural columns, we can also, again, family name, type name, mark, level, but also here we have some information about the base level of a column. I want to see the name of the level, which is the elevation of that level. Is it a building story? Maybe you have some proper parameter for it, some custom parameter that could indicate the type of level. So it could be interesting for facility management, or just for even the engineer who needs to make some calculations with that Excel file. So it's not only bill of quantity we have to do, it's pure data extraction. But our example here will be on bill of quantities. Now, once we've selected all the parameters we would like to see, and I would forget one, this is the materials instances. Materials instances, what is that? Well, what we are doing with DataLink is a little bit different, you notice, than the Revit schedules. The Revit schedules, they will look from top to down on your model, which means they start with your category. I want to see information about structural framing. Then they look at every family, at every type, and at every instance. That's the typical structure we have in a Revit model. Category, family, type, instance. Now, with template editor from DataLink, we are working differently. We are working from bottom to top. We scan the model on every solid that's available in it. And every solid is called, in our case, a material instance. Now, each solid in Revit belongs to a Revit element, to a Revit instance, which has an ID. Imagine, for instance, a door. So I guess everybody of you sits in an office in a space where there is a door, or I may hope so. Well, if you look at that door, you will see the door panel, you will see the hinge, you will see the key frame in it. Well, each of those elements, if you make it in a Revit family, is made of a solid element. It could be an extrusion, a sweep, a sweat blend, doesn't matter. It's solid. Now that means that you will have three solids, you will have three material instances belonging to the same ID, the ID of the door. But it could mean that also that now in this case, without having to make shared nested families, you will be able to detect the volume of each of the components of that door. Maybe it doesn't matter which is the volume of our hinges, but it's just a principle that you can detect each solid. And that's also the technique that's being used in the calculation of stairs. A stair consists of a lot of solids. Certainly when you use an assembled stair in steel or in or wooden, a wooden stair. Now, if you use several materials in that stair, you can again make some discretization on it with that materials instances for that stairs. Materials types, these are the several materials that are defined in your model. So we call it also instances and types. So that's in a nutshell how template editor could be used. In fact, the ones among you that wants to use a trial of DataLink will definitely have a lot of information with the stuff I already told you now. Now, once I set apply, it will change that webinar template .xls. Now let's have a look on it. Webinar template. Now you see it here. It's changed right now to take into account our clock. Now let's look here. We have casework, ID, family name, type ID, etc., etc., etc. So it makes us not only the headers, it also puts into that template something special that let DataLink identify which information needs to be put in here. So don't try to put in, for instance, here the width, and then let's hope that it will detect width within. It won't work. Revit, or at least DataLink, will see this as a custom element. So you definitely need to do it with template editor, and then you will see it in here. It will appear in here. Now, what we've done here is Keynote. Yeah, here we have Keynote, and I want to see that Keynote in here. Keynote. Let's go there. Oops. I give it a different color just to show to myself that this is made by template editor. This is made by myself. What I will try to do is to show in here the result of Keynote that's in there. So we have here test results. That's just the manual value I'm adding in here. Test. No. It's the type ID. Here we are. Now what we could do is use vertical lookup. But I'm not a big fan of vertical lookup, because once you add new columns into your Excel, then your range definition of vertical lookup won't change with your, I mean the column index number won't change. So I use a special formula which uses ranges. For instance, casework, Keynote, that's this matrix, and then we have casework type ID, which is another matrix. So here, Keynote is, yeah, it's a specific formula. I want to find in this matrix, I see the result of a line that's within that matrix. For instance, I want to see the result of line number 20. In this case, it will be empty. I want to see the result of line number 2. If I fill in this value, and you will see this is result. Yeah, that's tricky. We want to do this. I don't want to fill in each number one by one because test could be also in another line. Of course. So what we're going to do, I need to use a formula that will have a look on that value. It will search this value into the matrix of CW type ID. And test is located into that matrix, which is in our case row number 2. Now I'm using here a Dutch formula. Unfortunately, I don't have a English Microsoft Office, so the ones who use an English version, they can replace this with the formula match, M-A-T-C-H. If I do this, I get the same result. You see here? So we could prepare our templates. Oops. Don't want to have an absolute row. I want to see a variable row. Voila, that's what we want. So if I fill in here, for instance, test number 6, so here I fill in test 6, gives us result 6. It's in here. Okay, so now we know that our table is working. What we do is we delete that results in here and we leave this. So that means that if we extract our data from our Revit model into this Excel template, it will fill in only the data that are requested by template editor, which are in our case this one here, the blue fields, and it will fill in automatically the formulas of that yellow field. So that could give us a resulting template like this. BIMiTs architectural template. It's a huge template. I think it's 18 megabyte or something, because there's a lot of formulas in it I've been using. So here you see Keynote. That's that formula again. I go to ceilings, also there. So these are rather simple formulas. Here I have some more. I have the Keynote, I have height and width of that door. And now we have the, in French we say crème de la crème. That's the discretization of our floor. For each instance of our floors, I want to see the material of layer 1, the volume of layer 1, material of layer 2, volume of layer 2, etc., etc., etc. So just by using some formula which is matching one to another. So this is our compound structure. This is how it will look like. So everything is already prepared in the beginning. My summary of quantities, it's already in it. You see here, there's another formula which is referring to a total merged sheet, which I will talk you more about in detail when I finish this part. Now, and another one, casework detail. This is just a worksheet which I have added manually. I added manually and I made a pivot table in it. So a pivot table which is referring to casework I. Casework I, which shows us ID, article, description. No, excuse me, it does not refer to casework I, it refers to merged tab. So, and what I want to tell you is that you can create this in front of your extraction. The same for floor detail, which is giving me a detailed quantities of the floors. You see here again, level, material 1, volume, material 2, etc., etc. This is a pivot table that's been used with this information table. So DataLink will make a automatic fill-in of our Excel from casework till, in this case, I don't know, I think it's rooms or runs. It will also merge everything into this worksheet, and this are all manual detailed tables I want to extract, but which are not filled in by DataLink. They are just some views on those specific created tables by DataLink. Now, let's have a look. So I want to save that one. How do we set up a merge tab? Now we go here to that worksheet, and I will change the name into, in this case, merged. That's a default name. If you don't like the word merged and you want to see it as total, that's also possible. You have to just define it in the settings of that model. Now we say save, and of course I need to make our headers here. This one can be done manually. I just fill in the headers manually, not description, for instance, object name, identification. So I just give the headers like I want to see them. Okay, now let's go to save again. Close. And here we go to the merge sheets configuration. What is merge sheets configuration? Well, what we've done now is we've made a number of templates, worksheet templates, let's say, and they let's go in here. Okay. You see them here. We have casework, doors, floors, materials. I want to see all those information one below another into that casework, into that merged worksheet. So if I go to casework, I want to see its ID into the merged sheet header ID. You see here, ID, article, object name, identification. So this one needs to show ID. Here I want to use the type name, and the type name should be an object name. What do I have also in here? I have room number. Okay, I want room number into identification. Maybe for the floors have a, for instance, a mark parameter, and I want to see the mark parameter from the floors into the identification column. So what we are going to do is mapping everything that's in our separate worksheet. We're going to map it into the merged or the total worksheet. Keynote could be into article. Now, next one, doors. What do we have in doors? Not much. We have ID, which will be an ID again. We have a host ID. That could be our identification parameter. Okay. You see here? Here we use host ID into identification. In casework, we use, what was it again? Room number into the identification. So that's what's merging all about. Now, do I have to click one by one every dialog box? No. It's also possible to go to a, let's have a look. We have a ini file in it. And that ini file is showing us how it's merged. You see here? So you could use a simple text editor and write your merging configuration right in here. Okay. Let's press OK. We won't use it after all. So now we have that first part. We have the configuration. Let's have a look on how it will extract. So what can we do there? Okay, go to DataLink. Okay, I wanted to create into a new workbook, and let's call it webinar again. Webinar. Which template do you want to use? I want to use BIMiTs architectural template, or do you want to use webinar template? Yeah, that's the one I created a few minutes ago. But let's take the full one, which will give us a better idea of that model. It's also possible to go to an existing workbook. That existing workbook is, for instance, if you want to update your model, then you can choose to transfer to this one. if there are linked files in it, you can say, okay, include them also. I can imagine when you have MEP models exist of multiple positioned models, for instance, one for duct systems, one for the electricity, and you want to set it all together into one extraction template, then you switch on this option. Now, let's start. Okay. Normally I should play some music right now to not to keep you awake, because this could take some time. It will take maybe 2 minutes, but anyway, if you think about quantifying this model, I guess it won't be 2 minutes. Now you see here what it will do, exporting. It's reading everything that's been requested by the template. If my template asks information about furniture, then it will export it. But my template doesn't ask information about planting, so it won't export planting. It won't even look at planting. So the smaller the information request, the faster this will work, of course. Exporting wall. So everything is exported now into our memory. Now let's write it to our Excel table. Here we go. Writing everything down nicely into that template. For instance, the floors. I want to see the ID of the floors in a few seconds. Oh, it already passed away. Floor CS. That's the floor's compound structure. The compound structure of each floor will be discretized. And now materials I, of course, that's the biggest one, because in this case I want to see every solid into that model. You see here 7 steps. It needs to fill in 7 columns. Now there we go. Let's look at the clock. Yeah, we still have 45 minutes. That's okay. Now let's look at the results. Webinar.xlsx, that's the one that's been created right now. Maybe let's maximize it a little bit. Every single information that I've requested is filled in here. We see here the room name, keynote for the windows, for instance. Host total thickness is empty in my case. Why? Because it's not filled in anyway in the host elements. My tool from the BIMiTs extensions that should fill in this value has not been running yet. The wall's compound structure. So what we see here is we have 3 layers in that wall and a specific wall. Which specific wall? The wall 148734, which is 148734. That's the concrete insulated precast wall. What's that? Let's have a look. Families. I should have collapsed everything already. Let's go here. Walls, walls, walls. Where are you? Here. I think it was this one. Yeah. Edit. We have 1, 2, 3 layers. This is the 0 layer, the layer number 1, layer number 2. We go from bottom to top. 1950, 90, 50, 60. Let's have a look. This one. There we go. Oh, excuse me, it's going from top to bottom. 60, 50, 90. Yeah? So this is which material? Well, it's the material with ID 853810. So I won't look that up manually, so let's copy that. And then we go to the materials. And let's find it. Find that value. Here we are. It's concrete brick wall. Concrete C3037 for structural walls, which has this keynote. This means even that if you want to, you can set the material keynote linked into your layers. See here? So this is the material name, this is the material keynote. So everything is about identification. Once you have that identification, you can add your own columns which are doing some mapping between this value and the table where it should look for material ID and then return that value in here in that table. Now once I have that table, I can use it to create a compound structure in here too, which I have done for the floors. So floor CS has the same kind of structure. Floors I, it will look at the material. I won't explain that formula. If someone wants that formula, just email me and then I can send it to you, or I can even send you the template if you want to. This will look after everything that's... Oh, someone is popping up here. Just a minute. What was I telling about? Yeah, okay. You have the several materials, several volumes in it, so this could be used in that table. Maybe you don't want it. It's not that this is the information that's exclusively with DataLink. It's just Excel. You will see DataLink. It's explained in 10 minutes. You need 50 minutes to explain Excel and how to use Excel on it. So you have to be a little bit creative with Excel, and then you can get everything you want from that model, at least if it's modeled. Okay. Now, what's about that merged? Now you see here in merged, there has been done some configuration in the merged sheet config. Let's have a look on that. Merged sheets configuration. Here we are. So it uses this template. Casework, the ID of the casework needs to be there. The keynote needs to be in the article, etc., etc., etc. What do you want to see about floors? There is nothing in it. I guess it was walls. No. Whoops. That's not good. Doors in here. ID, keynote, family name, type name, level, etc., etc. Arc level. That's the level of our. That's the name of the header in the merged sheet. Level is the one that's been extracted from the doors. Now if you have a look in here, you will see arc level, which will in some cases not be filled in. For instance, in-place casework, which is not placed in here onto a level, but maybe some reference level, so it won't give us a result. But what we have here, for instance, casework doesn't have, or in my case, doesn't have an area. Area is in this case linked with surface. See here, still I have that perimeter. I don't have a perimeter for my cabinets. I only have it for my ceilings. So now we have a full table, and some objects does have a specific parameter that has a value that can be shown. Some of them doesn't have it. So the system panel is not linked with a room. What should we fill in room? In some cases for lighting fixture it's just the room awareness you want to see. For doors you want to see in here the from room parameter. So this is in fact the whole list of everything that's been merged, and this list will be used for every post-processing that has been done in here in the 3 front pages. So casework detail, it will look at these objects, these tables, these table columns from the merged worksheet, and I want to oh, you have to renew it, of course. Let's renew. So it has read now the merged worksheet, and now let's filter it. I only want to see the articles of 57.12. I have 35 elements from that. Oh, what about the 57.13? Oh, now we have 42. So that's already defined in our template. After extraction, I can use this to analyze our model at a nice Excel way, which can be printed immediately to a report. So if you want to have diagrams next to it to see, for instance, the consumption of concrete in your building, it's also possible. You just imagine what you can do with Excel, and you will see the advantages of it. Now let's go to the floor detail. Also this one needs to be recalculated. If there are programmers among you, it's still possible to make some macros in VBA for Excel, which could be integrated already in a template. One of our customers is doing this, and they have added some additional buttons even on their worksheets, telling them that, okay, now make this in another language, or make another copy of this file to give to the contractor with no intelligence in it, for instance. So that's all possible. Now in here, I give myself another perspective on the floors I want to see for each level, a discretization of each material and its consumed volume. So level 1 does have 2 floors, and they are both made in their first layer with this type of material. The first floor has this kind of volume, the second floor has this volume. And then you can go further and further and further and further. So it's a different way of looking at your model then. These are our detailed quantities. What about the summary? Oops, here we have. This is so the sum. This is called sum if. So if you go to this formula, it will look into the merged worksheet again at column B, and it will look after this article. If it finds the article 40.31, then take a certain specific column G in this case, which is length, and put it into the sum. So the total length of those aluminum profiles is, that's a lot, almost 2 kilometers. Yeah, it's a large facade we have there. You see here there are 1153 elements in that building. So you see here we have length, and length is not even applicable. For instance, in the doors here, I want to see how many doors do I have from this keynote 40. In Belgium we know keynote and Revit, but we don't say keynote, we say article or a post. So 40 has 90 elements. I don't have a length of it, I don't have a surface or volume, I'm not even interested in the volume, but still it's possible to list everything one below each other just because we use that merged worksheet. You could compare the merged worksheet with a multi-category material takeoff in Revit, just at a certain level. Once you want to use family parameters, or parameters that are in one case called length and in another case are called cut length, then your material takeoff will show columns. In our case, we will map it all one below each other in the length column. So let's have a look here on our presentation. Now, budget is still a little bit too early. I saw, yeah, okay. I'm a little bit ahead in time. I thought it would take some longer, but anyway, I think this should give you a clear view on what DataLink is doing. No, of course, I'm not ready. Excuse me, I forgot something. What if I want to see some more information about, let's say, this casework? 489021. 489021. Okay, I select it. I just wrote down the number because I want to be sure that I have the right number. Go to here, select from Excel. Click. There we go. You see here, this is the casework. Let's isolate it. Come on. Here we are. Where are you, little elements? There it is. It's an element with 450 times 600. 450 times 600 Yeah, it's that one. Is it 489021? Let's have a look. Manage IDs of selection 489021. So that way you can select from within that Excel file. What I saw is that in my mark columns, yeah, there are some elements missing. I want to have a number in it. Now in this case every mark is missing, but imagine you know already that this will be some specific mark based on the level. You can fill in here a formula, for instance, which is indicating level 1 and backslash and then, for instance, a room number. So I want this mark into it. That's a little bit too fast, but anyway, it doesn't matter how much I go just in here. Here we go. I want to see those elements. I want to see that mark back into my Revit model. Now let's save this. Okay, go back to Revit. The things I'm showing you right now are only available in DataLink 2015. 2014 doesn't have those functionalities yet. Where is it? Update from XLS. That's the thing we want to do. Which one? Webinar template. Okay, let's open it. Excuse me, not webinar templates. It's the models. It's webinar. This one. Open. I don't want to import everything. I just want to import the casework stuff. Now import. What it will do, it will compare the Revit model with the casework I table. If it sees any difference, it will fill them in. And Keynote will be not taken into account. Why not? Because Keynote is not a parameter that exists in instance. Oh, I have duplicate mark values, of course. Yeah, I didn't mention it, but I can neglect it. It's not a problem. So you see, these are all changed. But yeah, what is that? What is 718217? I want to see which element is it. Well, I can select it from here. Close the window. Let's isolate it. This is the element which has now level +6, 56. Of course, that update could also be transferred to. Yeah, I don't have the dialog anymore. I could transfer it to TXT or to HTML, which could help us to make a report of, okay, these elements are all changed, so you can look at it one by one eventually if you want to. Okay, now this is the functionalities we have. Two more buttons in here, which is export settings and import settings. These are the merging and the default templates you set. You could export it from this computer and import it into a computer of your colleague so that everybody uses the same merging and the same templates, etc., etc. So this is also available within that 2015 version. Of course, this is not only for architecture. I used this this template for architecture. Let me show you how structure could look like. Let's open that template. Now if you will see, come on. Ah, here it is already. This is the structure template. You see, you could have the same stuff, also summary of quantities, but this is more structure based. This is even used with a model with assembly codes instead of keynote, and then you get a different way of looking at that model. In our case here, I think there has been a pivot table within the structural columns itself. Where are you? Here you are. So the pivot table is within the extraction sheet. So you see, it doesn't have to be a separate sheet anymore. You can use it also in here. Now this template gives us then a result like this. It's the same building, but then the structural building of it. Now if we go to structural columns, there you see all the columns that are in that building. And the pivot table is not in it yet. Excuse me for that. But anyway, you see here, that's the same principle. It's the same way of using DataLink. Don't save. Now, let's go back to presentation. What's the budget of DataLink? I mean the price list. If you go to a single license of DataLink, to take account 650 euro. I won't tell every price of it. You can have a look on it afterwards too. So you will get that presentation into your mailbox too afterwards. Maybe just some explanation on these kinds of licensing. So yeah, single license, I think that's clear. We have it in a standalone. It's also possible in a network license. The first year of subscription is necessary. It's obligatory even. That way it gives you the opportunity to get the update version, the 2016 version in this case, for free. We also have the possibility of multi-user packs. So if you have, for instance, if you want to buy 6 or 7 licenses, then you will be cheaper to go to multi-user packs. That means that you can buy those or lease those licenses, up to 10 licenses, and this is the total price for 1 year. If you go to corporate license, so if you have a company with which needs more than 10 licenses, you pay this amount for 1 year on one site, and then you can use BIMiTs DataLink unlimited. You can install it on as many computers as you want to. If you need an additional site, if you have a company with more than one site, then there's an extra fee of 650 euro. Information on the web, it's also important. We try to put as much information as on DataLink. First is that you can download the software on Autodesk Exchange. So if you go to the Autodesk Exchange for Revit and you Google on, or you search, excuse me, on DataLink, then you will find an immediately link to download the 21-day trial. Some more about product information. You can go to the website BIMiTs.eu. On that website, you could find in products list, you will find a lot of information about DataLink movies. You can follow us from there to the Twitter account of BIMiTs, which is BIMiTs for Revit. Where you can see, I think every single or every 2 days there is a post on new movies on DataLink, on the other extensions, which could help you implement it easily into your company. There's also an online help file, which I can show you. Oh, doesn't want to work. Let's go into here. Let's go to BIMiTs. Go to the help file. There we go. DataLink, everything that I've been telling you is explained in here more into detail. How is the template editor working, extraction of data, how does it work, on which principles are used. There are also some practical examples on it. I see there's something wrong on my computer with that web page. It's been updated. That's better. It's been updated since yesterday, and it was not yet updated on my computer apparently. Now let's have a look. Practical examples. This is a better way. How to create a BOQ from A to Z, which gives you a nice video of it. An instruction video, I think it's 6 or 7 minutes with instructions, so which it's also on the same model like we have seen today, and some important rules, etc., etc. So there's a lot of information on it that you could find to help you. Okay. Now, like I told you, movies on the web. If you go to YouTube and you search for iThesis, then there's also some, in the PowerPoint you will find a link to a customer reference from VK Engineering. That's one of our Belgian customers for DataLink, which has made an extensive template of it. Now, you can also visit us at RTC Europe in Dublin. On booth number 7, there you will find us presenting more demonstration about DataLink. So that's also something important to know.